So it's the holiday, but you're honestly not just a big fan of those Hallmark movies. Of course, you're going to watch stuff like Home Alone and Rudolph and all of those staples, but if you're really into horror, then there are options for you if you're looking for a horror Christmas movie. Or just a horror movie that gives you kind of a Christmassy feel, a Christmassy atmosphere. And I'm going to go through both of those in this video and kind of pick out some of my personal favorites from this genre. So the first ones that I want to kind of go over are movies that aren't explicitly Christmas, really about Christmas at all, but are good movies to watch around the holidays. This is mostly because, honestly, most of these movies just take place in a winter atmosphere, a winter setting with snow and, la da 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 da.
I don't want her, bitch! I want her! And you murdered her!
No, I didn't.
Who did?
No one. She died. She just slipped away.
Slipped away? Slipped away? She didn't just slip away! You did it!
So, Misery from 1990. This is a Stephen King adaptation, and it is one of the more faithful adaptations of Stephen King's work. It's got Kathy Bates and James Caan, and it's really just a classic movie. If you haven't seen it, now is definitely the time of year to do so. Kathy Bates delivers like an all-time performance as the antagonist in this movie.
They just cheated us! This isn't fair! He didn't get out of the cock-a-doodie car!
And it's just a perfect movie. It's not something that's gonna drain you. It's a lot of fun, but it also does have some pretty gruesome scenes. No spoilers, but there's one that, if you know, you know. It's good. It's very gruesome. And it's just a really good movie to watch around the holidays, as your main character is secluded in a cabin, and this is in the winter, this is in the hills and mountains, it's snowing, it's kind of a cozy horror movie.
Clear.
Clear.
Thing. This is John Carpenter at his peak as far as cinematography goes. I mean, the way this movie is shot is just outstanding. Every shot, every scene, and every sequence really breathes with atmosphere, and the atmosphere of this movie is winter. They're a research team set in Antarctica. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this movie. If you haven't, just like Misery, now is the perfect time to do so, especially if you're a big fan of practical effects and of body horror. I mean, this is the body horror movie. If you want to see, gruesome practical effects, it's just, that is the movie to go to. You have Tom Savini, who he made the effects for Friday the 13th, The Blob, all of these classic movies that are famous for their body horror. And The Thing is probably the best example of this. You also have Kurt Russell.
Fuck you too!
And honestly, every actor in this movie is great. They give an amazing performance, and it is just the perfect movie. Honestly, this is one of those movies where there's nothing I can think that I want more from. If anything, I just want more of the movie. But obviously not a prequel, which they did. Pointless. And obviously not a remake, which I think they're going to do, or they've already done. I don't know. But yeah, this is definitely a movie you want to watch around the holidays. Perfect vibes. And just an all-around great movie.
Come and play with us, Daddy. For ever and ever and ever.
The next movie I want to talk about in the winter theme category is another Stephen King adaptation. Of course, I'm talking about The Shining. This is Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining, obviously not the Stephen King remake that he actually remade because he hates this movie. It's not at all a faithful adaptation of the book, but it's The Shining. Like, if you aren't into movies, then you haven't seen it, because if you are into movies, then you most definitely have. It's honestly the movie that got me into filmmaking in the first place, and yeah, I mean, what can be said about this movie that hasn't been said already? I know you've probably heard a million times that it's a masterpiece, and that rings true. If you haven't got around to seeing this movie, what are you doing? Stop this video and go watch that movie. Yeah, and it's perfect to watch in the Christmas time of year because it's got that winter vibe, it's got that snowy vibe, and all three of these movies that I'm talking about, they have kind of a common theme, which is that your characters are secluded, they're isolated, which adds to the horror aspect of it, and it also adds to the kind of coziness of it, because you feel wrapped in this movie. If you want to just put on a movie, make some hot cocoa, and just kind of like cozy up with your partner, or your dog, or a heater or a blanket, like whatever, these three movies are the way to go. They're not Christmas themed, but they give you the Christmas feel. Now, I want to go over an honorable mention because I can't really put it in the horror category, but it brings the aesthetics of horror and Christmas. Of course, I'm talking about The Nightmare Before Christmas. This is a comedy, this is a family film. I don't know why I'm describing The Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah, I know, I'm sure everybody has probably already seen this movie, but nonetheless, I kind of wanted to mention it because it is basically the idea of horror and Christmas. It's in the name. And this is Tim Burton, stop motion, awesome movie. Yeah, definitely one to watch in the holidays. Now I want to get into horror movies that are Christmas. One that I will tell you not to watch is, I think it's called The Mean One. This is the slasher Grinch movie. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's kind of along the lines of the Winnie the Pooh movie, the Blood and Honey movie, where it's really just a money suck. And it's not even fun bad, but it's just bad. Don't watch it. Don't give these people money, or else they're gonna think, oh, let's make a sequel, which I think they're already making, and it's terrible. If you want to watch it, watch Elvis the Alien's YouTube video on it. He actually makes the content interesting for really all of those kinds of movies. But moving on, I want to talk about some actual Christmas-themed horror movies. These are horror movies that have Christmas in the themes, in the story, and they're also horror. And there is actually a lot of good examples of this. There's a lot of bad examples, but when it hits, it hits. Because what all of these movies kind of do are they subvert your expectations, because Christmas in and of itself is supposed to be warm, fuzzy, cozy. You're supposed to get all of the opposite feelings of horror. Because in horror, you obviously want to feel uncomfortable. You want to feel scared, right? That's the point. So by adding horror into a Christmas movie, it adds to the uncomfort, because you know you're supposed to be feeling comfortable. And oftentimes in the beginning in these movies, you sort of do. But the horror, when it comes in, it sets you off, you know? Even if you're expecting it on a logical level going into these movies, on a subconscious level you aren't. And you can say, oh, I'm desensitized to horror. I'm desensitized to horror too. But we still watch it for a reason. And that reason is because we have a good time consuming horror. And that is why it works for Christmas films. So, starting off light, the first Christmas horror movie that I wanted to talk about is gonna be The Gremlins. This is barely a horror movie. Honestly, I know a lot of people see it as a comedy, and I kind of see it as both. Because there are some scenes that are genuinely, like, creepy. I'm saying objectively creepy, of course. If you're into horror and if you've been exposed to the genre for a long time, this is not going to creep you out, and honestly, none of the movies here probably will. But it does incorporate some of those elements. Now, this is very much a feel-good movie. It's very much like a Spielberg movie. He was the producer of this movie. It has that Christmas vibe. This is a movie you could put on for your grandma who hates horror, and she could still enjoy it, and you could still enjoy some of the scary imagery, like the eggs that the gremlins are hatched from. And, really, this movie kind of, it is in and of itself what I was talking about earlier with the subversion of cozy aspects of Christmas that you're expecting going into a Christmas movie, and like the grossness of horror, I guess. And you see that physically in the Gremlins. You see these, like, probably the cutest little creature ever made in a film, and you see it turned into a complete perversion of that, the complete opposite of that. That turns it on its head, and that's a great example of what I was talking about previously in these films. And another movie that I really wanted to discuss in the Christmas horror section of this video is Krampus.
Oh, come on.
It's very, very good. Like, I watched this movie when I was younger, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I remember liking it, but it really deserves a lot of merit. There's that scene where they go outside, and there's Krampus, and he's hopping from rooftop to rooftop, and he's honestly quite menacing in this movie. They did a great job with his design, and they did a great job of not really showing him to you. You're exposed to what he does in the film. It's kind of spoon-fed to you, but it's still a good movie to watch in Christmas time because it does have those horror elements and those horror aspects, but it's also very much a comedy. And the actors, it's weird that they're in this movie, but it works really well for the movie. You have Adam Scott from like Parks and Rec.
Gotta be kidding me!
And he plays the dad in this movie. You know, you have people like David Koechner. Yeah, a lot of these people are really like comedy actors. That's what they've been in. That's what they've been exposed to, and that's how we see them in this film. It works brilliantly for how this movie is and the way that it balances fear and comedy. If you like both of these things, and if you like the Christmas atmosphere, the Christmas vibe, this is definitely a movie for you. Please don't write it off. It's very good. So, we're getting into the slasher genre, I guess, with this one. And, of course, I'm talking about Silent Night, Deadly Night. And this movie, automatically, visually appealing, because it's 1984, so it already gives you that exploitation era of the slasher genre, which eventually, of course, led to its downfall, because they really squeezed that teat dry. It's a weird analogy. This movie's interesting, because it's very much a cheesy movie, It's very much an unintentional comedy, but what you have that's unique in this film is the main character is the antagonist. And to make him the heavy of the film, what they do is, like, I don't want to give away too much, but, like, the way that they turned him into the antagonist is, like, there's so much, like, fucked up shit that happens to this guy that you're like, okay, I get it, movie. I understand it. And it's funny, and it's dumb, but it's also just a really entertaining movie. I mean, what can I say? Like, you know, Christmas horror, Christmas slasher, this is the best iteration of, you know, Santa Claus Goes Bad, I guess. Actually, I spoke too soon. This is one of the best. Terrifier 3.
Girl, I don't remember if I told you, but so I've been in entertainment for a long time. You say it now. I was Elvis. Those girls, lost in the 1980s.
If you've seen the first two Terrifier movies, or if you even know about them, you can expect that going into Terrifier 3. With the Terrifier franchise, every movie they've topped themselves with the gore. If you like just schlocky fun, like, I can't believe that they did that. If you just want a film like that, it's not complicated. It's a little bit drawn out, as was Terrifier 2. The movie knows that it needs to take itself in places to get these scenes across and to have them actually make sense in the storyline, with them turning Art the Clown into, like, this, like, entity, this, like, supernatural being, where in the first movie there's not that much that needed to be explained about him, but they do so in this second two. But still, nonetheless, when they turn the gore on, and there are a lot of kills in Terrifier 3, can't believe I didn't say this earlier, set around Christmas time, Art the Clown is... That in and of itself is like, yeah, that's worth a ticket. Like that. And I had a lot of fun watching this. The gore is there. The gore is amazing. The practical effects are incredible. And it's bloody, it's schlocky. And the thing that they use with the red in this movie, as far as, like, the red in the blood and the red in Christmas, yeah, it gives you that Christmas but also horror feeling. And it's just a great one to watch around the holidays. If you're into extremely graphic imagery and gore. So this is my all-time favorite Christmas horror movie. This is the one that I would recommend to everybody just to watch, because it has something for every kind of viewer. And I'm of course talking about 1974's Black Christmas.
It's me, Billy. It's alright, Agnes. It's alright. Shh. Pretty Agnes. Agnes, don't you tell what we did, Agnes. Agnes. Agnes.
This movie's really interesting because it's 1974, and this is before Halloween. This is before 78. This is before people were really doing Christmas horror movies. It's a precursor to a lot of slasher movies, but it's not a slasher in and of itself. It's not a full-blooded slasher. It's more of a mystery film. It takes a lot of inspiration from When a Stranger Calls. It's a perfect movie, in my opinion. You have everything you want in a movie. It looks beautiful, beautiful acting. The characters are so colorful and unique, and interesting. Like each of the characters in this film are like, wow, like the performances in this movie are hilarious and in a lot of cases like weird, out there, gruesome. It's a very digestible film. It's fun, but you can also really dig into it. There's a lot to get into with this movie. I think people have lumped it into other like low budget Christmas films, and it's more than that, really. Your character Billy too, he's such a, like, the humor in this movie, when it's funny, it's very funny.
Fellatio 20880. What? Fellatio. It's a new exchange. FE.
It's a new one on me. How do you spell it?
Sergeant Nash, could I speak to you for a minute?
Yeah, sure, Lieutenant.
What's this?
Well, that's the number at the sorority house.
Fellatio?
Yeah, it's a new exchange. FE.
No exchange?
Yeah, Felicia. One of the girls that was in this afternoon gave it to me.
She gave it to you.
Yeah.
Nash, I don't think you could pick your nose without written instructions.
But when it's like weird and unnerving and scary, like Billy's phone calls, like the noises that he makes in this film are so guttural and like weird.
Oh, hell, not again. Billy? I'm sorry, you have the wrong number.
What your mother and I must know is, where did you put the baby, Billy?
You've got the wrong number.
Where did you put Agnes, Billy? Billy.
Look, I'm telling you, you have the wrong number.
What your mother and I must know is...
That it's just so interesting. It's just a very fun and kind of weird movie. It does something for, I think, every audience member. Whatever you're looking for in a Christmas movie, in a horror movie, this movie delivers. It's so good, dude. I cannot recommend this movie enough if you want Christmas horror. It is the best because it combines all of those elements. This is Future Kellen here. I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about this movie because, I mean, it's one of my favorites. It does not get enough credit. I mean, the first scene in Halloween, yeah, that's not the first time that the killer's been in the point of view. You can look at the Black Christmas for that. And in fact, that's pretty much the first scene of this movie as well. And it has respect for itself. Like, unlike a lot of slashers, and what I feel like a lot of people probably think this is at first glance, no, it's not. It's truly an amazing movie. And I touched on this a little bit before, but I really wanted to emphasize. You have scenes that are played straight comedy, and you also have scenes that are played straight horror. And both of these scenes are trying to only make you laugh or only scare you. So in the same film, you have a scene like this.
Premature ejaculation.
And then you have a scene like this. Or you have a moment like this.
There you are.
And then in another moment like this. And that's not really done in horror. There's horror comedies, yes, but this movie gives you such a weird feeling because, you know, you don't know what you're getting into, because when it gets scary, it plays it straight and completely straight. All it's doing is trying to scare you. And each scene either falls into one category or the other. And I think that plays to the movie's benefit, because it's you sort of don't know what to expect. It keeps you on your toes, and it keeps you engaged, or at least it keeps me engaged, just on every level. And I feel like although I did give it a lot of credit in the first recording, I didn't give it enough. So I just wanted to kind of really push this movie, because I think more people need to see it. Not that it doesn't already have a huge following, and it's well known for being a great movie, but I think a lot of people don't know about it, and it could definitely get some more eyes on it. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. So that's my list for horror movies to watch around the holidays. This is one of my first actual YouTube videos where I'm actually talking to the camera. This is the end of the video. Now you can leave. I'm just kind of talking to whoever wants to listen. But I truly love this genre. I understand it very well. And I just thought, you know what? Why don't I take this knowledge and make videos and see where it goes with it? I would love for people to comment and give their takes on holiday horror films. I'd love to talk movies, but frankly, nobody likes to talk horror movies as much as I do, so I end up exhausting people. You know what? This is weird too, because I spend a lot of time watching video essays, especially video essays on horror movies, and I was never been on this side of it, literally just looking into the lens of a camera and talking about shit that I'm into. It's weird, but yeah, I think I'm gonna keep doing it and see where it goes.